what have you done for me lately? It's Coons, what have y'all done for us lately? And if there's no answer, the only thing we owe them.
Welcome to this talk show. Tonight, we're going to continue having our discussion in reference to Black Americans' relationship with mental health. We have Professor Dreyer, we have myself here, and the first show we did generally speaking, and we discussed just in general about mental health, the trauma that Black Americans have faced, knowing all of the traumas from inherently, innately passed down from generation to generation. Our relationship with medical aspect of not trusting physicians, not trusting mental health, having a safe space. And then 3 weeks ago, no, 2 weeks ago, we discussed men and we discussed men's role in having that discussion and really hitting home about our younger men, 18 to 34, who unfortunately are committing suicide and how it's affecting them, knowing that for the most part, they don't have good cognitive skills and knowing how to problem solve, not all, but most. And then last week we didn't have a show, and I'll discuss why we didn't have a show after. So tonight we will discuss women, in particular Black women. And you notice at a certain age, Black women, once they go through some stuff in life, you start see that a lot of them are starting to get into a lot of self-help, self-discover, self-reflection, and start to really get into and be in tune with who they are in their place amongst the people in Turtle Island. But first and foremost, before we get Professor Drea, who is our professional here in this area, and she's a Black woman, so she's going to basically discuss and talk about some things during the show. Last week, I called Professor Drea right before we were about to start the show, and I told her I needed to cancel the show. And it wasn't nothing major, right? But when we talk about a safe space, something was just off on my end. I don't know what it was. I didn't have no worries for the most part, you guys, and I try to be very honest, open, upfront. I don't really have much worries. I live a very simplistic life. I don't have no outside stress going on. Small kids. It's just me and my space. And particularly when I do shows, I'm in a whole different area in my home where I'm not bothered. But for some reason, last week I woke up and just was off. Work was weird. Actually, I was off last Wednesday, but it was weird. I sat around all day, didn't do much, and for the most part, sometimes you have to realize to take a break, and it don't have to, and particularly be anything going on, but don't be afraid to take a break. One of the reasons why I wanted to touch on this aspect of something in the Black American culture is we don't discuss this openly. And if we do discuss it openly, it's not really talked about on a podcast type of form. We love to, right now with everything that's going on, we're delineating ourselves and we understanding that we are a specific group of people. In that, we need to understand some of the traumas that are specific for us, and generally speaking for us, because if I was from the diaspora, I would not know what Drea been through in her own life and that was passed down from tradition. I wouldn't understand it. I wouldn't be able to relate. I would have no aspect of information to give Drea, even as a friend or anything. I wouldn't be able to understand. So that's why I decided to do this and wanted to really address it. And knowing how many of my friends who do celebrate these holidays, this is a real sad time for people because their families have moved on. And this is a tough time for a lot of people.
Right.
Holiday season, a lot of people go through depression. So we always want to have a safe space and allow people to come on, listen. As we would say, just chop it up and just talk and just understand that it's okay to not be okay. And we want to address it. Whatever you do to outlet, as long as you're not harming yourself and others, do it. If you like to just unplug, me and Drea have been friends for a while. She has no problem with unplugging. Where I'll be like, yo, what's up? And she be like, yo, bro, I'm done. I have no problem with unplugging sometimes. And that has been recently a lot. And a lot of people that I deal with, they unplug. So never be afraid to unplug. But Drea, as we begin, what's going on?
What's going on, Q? What's up, everybody? I hope everyone is being safe and uh, secure and in a peaceful state of mind. And like you mentioned, this is a tough time of the year for everyone. And I have wrote blogs about this because a lot of times people don't know how to process or even grieve or they're in that complicated grief during the holiday season and they put a lot of pressure on themselves due to try to keep up with traditions for people who may be ungrateful. You're trying to keep up in a society in which people are really drowning financially, emotionally, spiritually, physically, right? So it's just, I just want to hold space for everyone to say, you don't have to participate. You can give your family an hour and be out, but, just make sure you take care of yourself first.
That it's funny that we discussed this, and this is something that I think um, for those in the chat, Drea and myself have been doing shows together for a while. And we always do like a thankful show towards the end of the year and just showing some gratitude. And think about what I had just said when I opened, and I thought about something that Joy Reid had did, and who she is, and everybody should know that I'm not a fan of Joy Reid, nor nothing that she says. And I remember when Joy Reid had someone on her show last year or the year before. I think it might have been the year before because I think her show went out last year before election. And she literally she had a doctor up there, a black doctor. I don't know if they were Black American, but they literally told the audience to not celebrate Thanksgiving and Christmas with their family if they voted differently. This comes from a person that does not understand the communal aspect of why we gather. For a while, there has always been a lot of Black Americans that were not partaking in the actual holiday, but the ritual of family getting together for Thanksgiving, Christmas, and knowing if you didn't know anything about Black American history, the history of the New Year's Day, the Black Eyed Peas, and so forth, for someone that is from the diaspora that doesn't understand historically what we've been through, to tell someone to don't be with their family during these times and not understanding, like I said, the communal aspect of why we get together, cook and you bring a dish over and this one got the potato salad and so forth. That's what we do. So, Drea, when we had this conversation about black women and uh,
This, it's gonna this touches deeply because being a black woman for 42 years and counting, and being in a mental health space and seeing the things black women go through is very telling, and it's alarming, especially in this era and the state that we're in. Because I would like to say it's a state of emergency for black folks' mental health because people are crashing out left and right, and they're packaging it as a story time um, on social media, and it's cringe to me because people are really selling their trauma, and people are really monetizing off of people's trauma and their own trauma as well to get a bag instead of just saying, "Let me shut this down. Let me go get some assistance." But we have these platforms in which I gotta get a bag for get my mental health, and when you try to hold people accountable, you're messing up their bag, so to speak. But you know, once again, it's embarrassing, it's traumatizing because you do have that secondary trauma when you are intaking folks' mental health, especially for Black women, because we have so many stereotypes as Black women from the beginning of time, and the stereotypes is not even dying down anytime soon because a lot of times we make ourselves a caricature, instead of just dialing a step back, like, hold on, I just really embarrassed myself, put all my business out there. And we don't have that, we don't have any privacy or boundaries when it comes to our mental health being on full display because we actually put ourselves out there.
one of before I get to the first question, I got a couple of questions for you because I noticed that when I asked you these questions, um, it will previously get a lot of times we could just have a conversation, but sometimes if you don't ask the question, you won't get the answer. You know what I mean? I Before I get to them, a couple of weeks ago, Amanda Seals. Amanda Seals made a post in reference to Charlemagne. Charlemagne, this was around the time everybody thought he was getting fired, right before. She made a post in reference to him speaking truth to power. And she said that Charlemagne is not serious about the work, putting the work in. Because, Amanda Seals feels as though that she's considered one of the black radical thinkers, right? But anyway, this is not about her, but this is about something that she said in reference to this conversation and what happens. She said he was pressing Kamala Harris on something, on a question. And Kamala Harris, black woman. I need you to explain what that means. Black woman on black woman.
That's an interesting term. I've never heard a black woman him. To me, as what they say, as an East Coast girl, as a Bostonian, now Southerner, I would say, is she saying she sunned him, like she embarrassed him and put him in this place? That's what I interpret it as. But every black woman don't sun people, and they know how to rightfully put people in their position or space, without having this whole like, oh, I black woman him, because that sounds also emasculating.
I
You
think
can.
I think that's what Amanda Seals was saying. And
Oh, okay.
she was saying it in a very unique way that a lot of our black women in power will do to black men on a platform. Will she'll one up him and use her black womanness, as if that's a word, as a way of whittling away and using her cunning abilities as a black woman
Right.
to basically nigga explain nigga explain the question away.
I never heard it. I mean, that's an interesting term of like she black woman him.
Amanda
That's
Seales said it.
weird.
I was really shocked that Amanda Seales said it because usually, conversation, I've never heard another black woman say it because, and this goes back to what we're talking about. You very rarely hear unfortunately, a lot of black women call other black women to the carpet.
Mhm.
It's always a lot of cosign. From
Right.
the black man's perspective and some black women's perspective, black women have a flaw where they don't really champion other black women, but they won't call them out. So, but that's a whole different topic, right?
Exactly.
So let me ask you, have some questions. From your experience in clinical social work and academia, how do you see the strong black woman expectation affecting black women's mental health today?
It is generationally passed down, and so that person that's passed down to, they have to make a decision on whether or not they want to continue to wear the cape of being strong, right? And a lot of times when we are strong, we're actually suppressing our actual true feelings of, once again, holding space for ourselves, having those boundaries, going to a therapist, and really just seeking some type of assistance. In the spaces I've been a social worker for 19 years, been in academia 7 years, and have worked out of HBCU, worked out of PWI now. And I have seen the trope of being a strong black woman, working with all black women at one point, having, social work as a majority woman led field. And then teaching and surrounding myself with students who are, black students, especially young ladies. So seeing that trope being passed around, you can see it in the attitude, you can see it with overperforming. And what I mean about overperforming is I gotta, get straight A's. I gotta be the leader of all the organizations on campus. I also gotta be top notch because they may be first generation college student. They got to get this bag. They have to have a certain image, which is actually is killing us holistically. And when I'm saying killing us holistically, mentally, I had to have talked to a lot of students off the ledge because they wanted to unalive themselves. A lot of times, they also open up to me about, essay, different abuse that they have gone through, and that cake come on, right, as a protection, as a shield from, I'm good. I'm a perfectionist. I look good as long as I have the makeup on and I'm receiving in the classroom. I'm good. But we don't take the time to really unpack or have those safe spaces to unpack those things. So I see it all the time. So I always tell my students this. I keep it real with them. I say I have my therapist, as people talk about the board of directors, as one of my board of directors that I will call and be like, hey, I need to go to a session. I have very limited people in my life that I trust with, hey, I'm not okay. And this is what I'm going through. And this is a plan that I have to get myself okay. And sometimes I may have to withdraw. So, I'm the example. So I just don't tell my students like go to therapy, go do this. I'm actually doing those things myself to model because a lot of times we don't model what we preach. And I'll have to say for me being um in my family, the first in a lot of things, I had also said to myself, I'm just gonna be the person that's breaking generational curses and cycles, and that's a hard thing to do. And I have done that. I've been the blueprint of that, and it's a lonely place to be. But you have to once again equip yourself with the board of directors that's going to hold you accountable. Because I have been called out by Black women, and whether it's my best friends or whether it's my therapists, mentors, or whoever, and I didn't crash out because they called me out and held me accountable. I had to sit with that and say, yeah, I need to change some things about myself and actually do the work once again. So, once again, it's all about modeling and not just crash out because someone held you accountable and saying you can do better than this.
Yeah, great perspective. Hey, Sister Star, what's going on?
Sister
I
Star.
saw you. I saw you just now on Dr. Short's channel, Sister Star. Yeah, he's back. I actually talked to Dr. Short the other day,
Oh,
and I'm going to intend on calling him tonight. He's back doing content, letting everybody know what's going on, and addressing some of the stuff that's going on. And Sister Star, you are correct. The strong black woman mindset has made black women unable to get along with other black women. That is so true. I remember some time ago I had put a question on Facebook. and I said, "What the hell is a strong black woman?" And I pissed them women off. I said, "I've never heard a strong white woman. I've never heard a strong Latino woman. I've never heard a strong Asian woman. What does that mean?" And it's amazing how we will allow someone else to put a narrative on us and it becomes who we are.
Mhm.
Instead of realizing you don't have to be strong. You could be vulnerable as hell. Like, what does that mean? You're strong. What, where did that come from? And we need to be mindful of stuff like that. So, this is another question in reference to your students. So, you work closely with future social workers through a field of education. What gaps do you notice when it comes to what gaps do you notice when it comes to preparing professionals to support Black women specifically?
What Sister Star say? We don't get along. We don't get
Mm,
along, and I'm a break it down. Especially, we don't get along. Especially if you look, I just say it. We look a certain way. We look good. We talk a certain way. Articulate. People. You may be a likable person. Um, you may be no nonsense. See, people think because I'm like cool, calm, collected, but I'm also no nonsense. So everything I'm saying, I've been through that, and so I have to once again tell my students because once again, is social work is heavily female oriented, of y'all got to get along because your client may bust you upside your head. I tell my students that because you're dealing with people who've been oppressed, who's in a vulnerable state, who don't want to come to social workers or don't want to get help in the first place, right? Especially if they mandated. Oh my God, if they mandated by the courts. So you have to get along with your coworkers in a professional manner. All that, oh, I don't like the way she look. I don't like the way she rock her natural hair. That gotta go out the door because that has nothing to do with you. And my motto is this has been my whole professional life. We're here to service the clients, the students. That's it. I will come and I'll speak to you. But when it comes to the mess, that's when the buck starts here. So I have to always do a lot of interpersonal development of just even how do you conduct yourself, as a black woman. That's first because you're going to be a black woman forever versus a social worker. When you're going into these agencies like nonprofit agencies, a lot of us don't run them. It's mainly white women or a white man who's the executive director. How do you professionally have an ethical relationship with them? Because ethics too. And also too, how do you still show up as your full self? Because a lot of times, a lot of women be fronting, a lot of black women be fronting, they wear a mask. They code switching. I don't do the code switching. I never changed my hair up. When I went on interviews, you're going to take this natural hair, what they call civil rights hair. Well, I guess I'll be wearing my civil rights hair to the interviews. And I
civil
have
rights.
never, yeah, that's a big thing, appearance. And I never had got rejected from a job because I wore my natural hair, which is another episode we could probably have a conversation about. But we have to have those conversations first before you can go out into getting an internship. And I mean, it when I was in my role as a director, I had to have a lot of conversations in my cause I taught an interpersonal skills class about those things, even how you dress. Because I understand you want to look like Cardi and Meg, but you're not in the entertainment field. You're in the helping field. You're in the mental health field. So it's I had a lot of conversations about identity, culture, ethnicity before we can even get into being a social worker because that ties in and you sometimes you can't separate it because that's who you fully are. You can't change your skin color or your gender when you go into an interview.
Wow. Wow. So we're gonna just no, we're not gonna shift away from, but the questions might seem like they're a little all over the place. But the questions talk about. So this next one speak about compassion fatigue. How does compassion fatigue show up uniquely for Black women who are caregivers, educators, and leaders?
Compassion fatigue is, I say it the most plainest way. I'm sick and tired of people. And when I did a lot of presentations on compassion fatigue, and people would look at me like, "Why did you say that?" I'm sick of people. I'm sick of people, and I'm not good. And once I get to that, I'm sick of y'all. I'm sick of caring. I'm sick of being empathetic. That's what we see now. We see more apathetic. I'm sick of carrying people on my back. Don't people didn't ask you to carry them on their back? because you once again want to wear the trope and the cape of being a strong woman because that's what you've been conditioned to do. I don't consider myself a strong woman. I People may laugh at this. I live an easy and soft life. And I enjoy that. I have people who support me in that, and I never want to be the strong woman. And I remember telling people in my family, I was like, I do not want to be the matriarch because the matriarch is what, always getting dumped on, the trauma dumping, um, they always bitter. It's like a bitter, it's a jadedness. Yes, they're consoling people, they're comforting people, they may be the mother of the family, the church or whoever, but who is mothering them? Who's reparenting them? And a lot of times they carry that trope because they don't want to uncover the layers of their own trauma. I have seen it in my family. I have seen it, on both sides of my family, except for one of my great aunts. That's why I love her so much. She had died, and she was always the life of the party. And I never seen her jaded, bitter, because she really, I felt like, worked on herself, and she didn't take on the issues of other people in my family. And also too, she didn't take on the trope of, oh, I'm a strong black woman. She like really lived a full life doing what she wanted to do. She was married, lived in Detroit, really lived this full life, and I always admired my great aunt. But I tell people in my family, like, I don't want that. Like, y'all not gonna kill me. You better, I will refer you to therapy. You don't want to do the work, that's not my problem. And people look at me sideways in my family like, oh, she's not playing. No, because I have seen people literally have their lives ended early for taking on the trope of being a strong woman and also taking on the problems that you didn't ask to take on.
Yeah, and when I ask you these questions, just to start, you're in the chat. You can answer the questions too as well. Because this is very interesting discussion, and it's informative. I believe that men sometimes don't hear women have these discussions about themselves and about other women. So this conversation is very reflective. Sister Star said, when you get a bunch of black women together in a room, they will magnify their insecurities against each other. That's interesting.
Mhm.
It's interesting. So, okay. Yeah, I told you I got some questions for you tonight.
I'm ready.
In your opinion, why do many black women delay seeking help until they reach burnout? And how can we begin to normalize early mental health care?
A lot of black women, hold y'all breath, everyone, and take a breath together. They don't feel there's nothing wrong with them because they either have been the bully and had been the loudest in the room. And what happens with the loudest in the room? They drown out everyone's voice. And like Sister Star says, it's just the insecurities that's blazing loud saying, oh, this person need help. And when you start seeing them crashing out for no reason, you're like, oh, you need to get some assistance. Um, and once again, because so many people have pacified them, that's probably been once again their lineage of women that's just been loud, wrong, instead of being connected to their body saying, there's something off about this. Because a lot of times we act out because we're so disconnected, we disassociate, right? And then we start acting out in behaviors. We start, that's why we got the crash outs, we got the story time, and then you're listening, you're like, sis, you should have been got some help. Your whole family sound like they should have got some help. But also too, as a social worker, I have been trained. You are a product of your environment, and once
Mm,
you stick in that environment, you can't keep going back to that environment thinking you're going to get well. You're going to get what? You're going to get more sicker until you decided to remove yourself out that environment and away for those people so you can also too get some help that you need. And that's even in the Bible about being around bad associations for useful habits, right? And when you're around people who are sick, you're going to be sick as well. So a lot of times when you're in situations in which you're around people that is in a dysfunctional environment, who's gonna tell them that they need help? Because they're gonna get barked on, right? Somebody's gonna bark on them, like, "Hey, you need to get some assistance." And then you'll hear the excuses of, "Well, I don't have insurance. I don't have this. I don't have that." There's so many resources that's out there. That it may not be accessible to them, but if you could find resources to be accessible to inhibit your bad behaviors, you could find resources to also to help you to get better. So a lot of times, once again, they usually do not get the help that they need until it's a dire situation. Until, let's say, they're up in an emergency room, then here comes the medical social worker, here comes the, probably psychiatrist that have to do an evaluation at this point. But we shouldn't get to that point in which we have to be institutionalized in order for us to receive help. We should, once again, and someone saying, "Hey, there's something going on," starting with school instead of, I'm talking about like elementary school to high school. If you have some your teachers like, "Why you keep acting out?" or "Why is this student always fighting?" That should be a pause. Like, this student needs to get some help. But once again, you got the parents who's coming up to the school ready to fight the teachers and the counselors. That's a dynamic of dysfunction in the family. So, when is someone going to break the cycle, have the courage to break the cycle of receiving help?
Wow. So this one is a little bit more specific. It's interesting. Based on your work at the Careerist Project and your Brown Girl from Boston platform, what role does career stress and professional identity play in Black women's mental wellness?
Black women, y'all can get mad at me. Just because you are bored, don't get another degree.
Mm,
You don't need to get another degree because you are masking something. You're not bored, sis. What you masking? You need to go take that resource of the degree in which you're gonna be in debt again unless somebody's gonna fund that degree to go get you some help to really figure out why do I need to go to law school or medical school, and that's not even your path. Is it to get a bag to fund your lifestyle? Um, I remember when I was at my previous job at my alma mater, everyone, you should get a doctorate, you should get a doctorate, you should get a doctorate. Now, mind you, I have my master's,
I remember when I
and I've
said
been
it to
licensed. And asking one of my mentors, I said, "Hey, Doctor such and such, these people saying I should get a doctorate. What do you think?" So she said, pause. She told me to pause. She's like, pause. If she did a prayer, we prayed, and she said, "Andrea, you've been in academia all these years with just a master's degree. Why do you need to go get a doctorate? Do you want to be a president? Do you want to be a dean? Do you want to be a provost?" And I said, "No, I don't want to do those things." She's like, "You're already doing the things that you need to do." And I was on tenure track at the time. So, sometimes we need to have that woman. It was a black woman. My mentor was like, "Sis, you don't need to go get a doctorate. You're gonna go through all type of hell, getting a doctorate for what? To say you doctor such and such." So a lot of times it's the status. And why do you need that status? Once again, remember I went back to you're overperforming because you're masking something because you probably don't think you're good enough as is. And a lot of times, a lot of black women don't think that they're good enough with just 1 degree, 2 degrees, or 3 degrees. They're like, "Oh, I gotta go get it all," and have all these, you know, uh, criteria behind their name. And I'm gonna tell y'all this, and y'all get mad too. Most black women that I came across, Andrea came across, that have all these degrees, they have some type of unaddressed, unresolved trauma. And I have worked with black women with PhDs, and most of them are hell to deal with. They are just you don't want to deal with those people. Some of those people are so unhinged, and they think, well, I'm the ish because I'm Doctor Such and Such, and like I said, 9 times out of 10, they have some unresolved trauma. So before you go thinking you need another degree, have a and be open to receiving that feedback. Have a conversation. Probably need to take a pause. Go take some sessions with a therapist or a career coach to see. And when my best friend and I started the Careerist Project, it was for reasons of, hey, let's come together to see what other skills you may have, which you may need to take those skills into another industry. We never had say, oh, go get another degree. We had women in our cohort who went to law school, who lived abroad, and they was unhappy. They was unsatisfied. And once they, start uncovering those other skills that they had, they transferred them into another field and was able to be satisfied with their lives. You have to be, like I said, content with you, content with who you are. But a lot of times, again, those degrees just mask. insecurities, and also to one up another black woman to say, "Oh, look at me, like I'm doper than you. I got another degree," and not knowing that you're drowning in debt. And going to grad school, for those who have never been to grad school, that's a whole like process within itself. It is tough. Even when I got my master's, it was tough, and I got my master's way at like 23, 24. That is another level of, like, I'll say, pledging. I never pledged in my life, but you have to have a certain type of dedication, commitment to getting these advanced degrees. And you have to remember, what's the purpose? Is the purpose is to have clout, or the purpose to really help, humanity?
It's amazing that you brought that up and explained that question is because we have seen black women's degrees be weaponized against each other, their mates, their counterparts, and so much so that they even made up the statistics that black women are the most educated women. That's not true. And it's a statistics that's not based off of, how can I say it? Because you can look at some data where it would support the argument. But when you furthermore look at the data doesn't really support the argument. It is still white women because it's a more majority, it's more white women in schools than it is black women. So it's amazing that, what does that mean if it was true? Oh, black women are the most educated demographic. What does that mean? Like, what does it mean? Like, why are you going to try to weaponize your education on your family, on your counterparts, like you said, on other black women? And the reality is that you're using it as a masking agent to deal with some underlying issues. So we need to really, really, as a community, we need to address that and understand how one of the tools of the dominant society is to use and to pit us against each other: education, health, mental illness, and so forth and so on. What are some cultural responses, approaches, or practices you believe that are essential when working with black women in therapy or social services?
Um, Spirituality, bring that in, but it, you have to also to respect people's spirituality practices, and I think a lot of times we don't do that. Because people are tapping into other spirituality modalities that is helping them with their lives. See, everyone just feel like, well, I just got Jesus, Jehovah, Allah, whoever, I'm good. No, you can bring that into, your therapy sessions, and whatever. Some people just feel like I can pray it off, but you can also intermingle, interchange both of them. And respect people's practices. That's very important because what they may have practiced, they may have found some type of comfort, solace in that, and that doesn't mean that you shouldn't take them on as a client because they chose to do X, Y, and Z. It also too should push that clinician to research. Okay, why did they get into this? Ask your clients that as well. But a lot of times, that's definitely number one. Also, number two is what are some other things that Black women, what do they enjoy outside of going to school, their job? Bring in like the exercise, bring in like walking therapy, journaling, dancing, whatever the case is. Everyone is not responsive to like CBT, which is cognitive behavioral therapy. Everyone's not a talker. Some people need to actually do narrative therapy and actually write out their story and write it out till they get tired of it and say, you know what, I'm breaking up with this story. Um, Yes, exactly. God created Christian counselors, so you go to counseling and something that's going to benefit you. When I first started counseling, I actually went to a black man, the dopest black man I ever been to, and he incorporated yoga. Some people probably hear this like, "Oh my God, Andrea, you are a witch. You are just like demonic," because yoga, all this stuff is demonic. But that really helped me to slow down, who I, was as a person at like in my early 20s. It helped me to really tap into my breathing techniques to just really be more healthy holistically and be present. And that was one of the best therapists besides my therapist I have now that I went to, and it was a black man. And I mean, that man held me accountable. I learned so many different things about myself. I learned so many different things about my body, how our bodies do keep score. Now, let me see. I have this book. Hold on, y'all. I have this book here. The body keeps the score. It's a good book about how our body, mind, body, and spirit keeps hold of trauma that you'll be surprised. Hence why you always talk about people talk about, oh, I'm triggered because they have triggered something. It could have been something in their heart, something in their mind, something in their stomach, and they have these somatic symptoms in which you're feeling it in different parts of your body. So that really helped me to like to things in my body that I had to release some things that I didn't even know that my body was holding on to. So those things we have to really get out the traditional practice or just even the things that we was programmed to explore what's going to work for us for our healing. And a lot of times the traditional things don't work. And a good therapist will explore that. Like for me, with my therapist that I go to now, we explore so many different things. She know that I love to travel. She know that I'm very creative. And so like she really has to push me in a direction of just like using my voice, being creative because I love to write. And sometimes like I suppress those things, especially if I'm going through a difficult season. So, you have to find someone who's very skilled at really pulling out those things in black women, but also black women have to be courageous enough to put it
Mm.
on the table and not front like I'm great. No, you're not, because you wouldn't be going to therapy if you was great.
That's one of the things that when you hear someone say they working on something and they doing something, a baseball player plays baseball, a boxer boxes. So if you have a religious belief or you're working on something, what are you really doing? Are you really putting the work in? It's always amazing how I have a friend of mine, sister. She's B1 all the way as well, right? And she believes her therapeutic way of dealing with it is to deal with people when you're going through issues instead of working on your issues alone. She believes that people need to work on issues when they're in a relationship, but they're working on themselves. And it's a very interesting thing. She takes a different holistic approach to it. And one of the things that I noticed is that we love to ask for a victory lap when we sacrificing. If you know you sacrificed, you put the work in, but we want the accolades to come from outside first. Oh, I saw you sacrifice, Andrea. Let me champion your sacrifice. I'm never going to be able to understand your personal sacrifice and what you did to get where you at. Nobody's going to understand the work that you put in. But we love outside validation for what we go on internally instead of realizing like, look, you know what you're doing. You know how hard it was to put the work in to address certain issues or to accomplish a certain goal. Nobody else is going to understand that. And if they do understand it, they're not going to understand it like you because they didn't sacrifice it. You did.
Mhm.
The human body and the human mind, for some reason, with a lot of us, is that, oh, oh, we don't know. You don't know what I've been through. I don't know what you've been through.
Right.
Only you know what you've been through.
Exactly.
Only because it's you. You put the work in. You have to, and this is goes for when you're an educator. We only learn theory.
Mhm.
Then you have to learn practice.
Right.
Practice has to be practice. It
Right.
has to happen. You have to take all the education. You have to take all the, as we would say, religious knowledge. If you're a religious person, you have to put all that into practical skills. Practice.
Mhm.
It has to be done. You have to do it. It's an action.
Right.
You can't. You know, it's not going to happen just because you want it to happen. So I always thought that that was interesting how when we're going through these battle struggles and or issues in our professional and personal life, that we think that we're going to get through these hurdles without practice, without practice.
Mm-hmm.
practice. So I have a couple more questions, and they're more of advice for Black women who feel guilty about prioritizing themselves, rest and or therapy. What mindset shift would you encourage them to start making today?
Mindset shift is looking in the mirror and acknowledge you too can be problematic and what's the issues that's holding you back. See, a lot of times we can't go in that mirror and say, I can be problematic. I am the common denominator when it comes to certain issues in my life. We always want to pass the buck on to somebody else. And I guarantee you, when you start jotting down, I am the problem. I was the problem in this situation. I was a problem in that situation. I'm holding myself back in this area. I'm not, stepping up in this area. You know, I'm always the victim. Now, I feel like for these my folks who always think that they the victim, I guarantee you, you subconsciously, unconsciously victimize somebody. But then you want to flip it around like, oh, I'm the victim, and start jotting those things down. And when you're ready, it may not ever be, but the first step is you going in that mirror, doing the mirror work, you jotting it down. And then when it's time for you, when you start seeing your life spiraling, because it's that one issue, that root issue that keep holding you back, right? That's when it's time for you to go seek therapy. Not when you out here about to crash out. Um, I know this is the holiday season. You crashing out on your family members. Now is not the time to go set it off on them. Like, it's the time to really have a conversation with yourself and be like, why am I about to set it off with these people? Are they going to truly listen? And also, too, it's time for me to go. I know in 20, everybody's talking about 2026. I'm about to do this. I'm about to do that. Put therapy on the
New
list.
year, new year, new
Put
me.
it on the list.
New year, new me.
Right. And it's you'll be surprised who has therapy. Like I say, I have been a social worker for 19 years, and in higher education, I have been in therapy on and off for at least 15 years. And I have no shame of saying that because there were some things that I was problematic in. I was a common denominator in, and I had to do a lot of work to get to where I'm at. And like you said, Q, like I have to put a lot of theory into practice. This just because I'm in the mental health, um, profession, and I'm a professor, I'm still a human. Like I still go through human experiences. I still have issues with family members, with friends, people who I love, was in relationship with, and I have been a problem in those situations as well.
Actually, this is just a bonus question, right? And this affects your money. What I'm about to ask you, this affects what you do. One of the things that I admire about you is you're very easy to cut off your social media. Your social media. First of all, you were big on Twitter when we first met. You were all over the place on Twitter, big following, involved with a lot of different groups, and how we met. And knowing you have the career list and knowing what you do, knowing you're a regular vlogger, this is something that affects what you do. It affects your field. But at any given moment, when you feel like the need to address some issues and or just unplug, you're able to cut that off, knowing it's hurting an aspect of who you are. It's like taking a step back to take three steps forward. Like, okay, how I would think for most people who have a big social media footprint, it would be hard to do that because at the end of the day, it affects what they do. How do you do that?
Is discipline, and also too is a lot of times when I don't push my blog, people still come to my blog. People not gonna forget about you. Like for me, I have my blog. Oh God, over 10 years, and people still come read my blogs, and people still was typing stuff and be like, oh yeah. People will check on me, email me like, oh Drea, I read this. Oh, I miss this. I miss you. I miss your presence online. Go read my old stuff because I got to take care of me first. And I think a lot of times people feel like I got to be on. See, when you constantly being on, that's why you got so much. That's why you have a mental health epidemic now, because people are what, they're always connected, but they're still lonely. Go touch some grass for real. Like when I think the longest I took was this year, 6 months, because I needed time to just really go touch grass, really work on my holistic self. And sometimes you get burnt out from social media. I've been on social media since, oh God, the AOL days, like the chat room. Then I was on Black Planet. So I'm aging myself. I've been on social media for a
You
long
was a
time.
MySpace person too, huh?
Huh?
You was a MySpace person too?
Yes, I was on MySpace. So I've been on social media for a minute. So I've seen the evolution of social media and what it have done to people, right? So I have no problem of turning it off. Like I'm not, I have no problem blocking people. I will block you in 2.5 seconds. You're not gonna talk to me crazy, and I'm not going back and forth with an avatar because you may be mentally unwell behind that avatar. So I'm
Okay.
not going back and forth with you.
But the Avatar ain't going back and forth with the Avatar.
No, I'm not.
It reminds me of the brother Hotep Jesus. I don't know if anybody follows the brother Hotep Jesus on YouTube and Twitter, but I used to be a big supporter of his show. I still catch him time to time when I'm not busy because try to support a lot of people who I think are who have thought provoking content. But he used to always come on Twitter and be like, "So what strangers y'all arguing with on Twitter today?"
Right. Because people, people are going to project whatever they're going to project. Right, Sister Star. Social media is not a real place, and it's easy to get caught up in the noise. I block folk. I have no problem blocking people. I can tell y'all this year, I'm gonna get into my numbers real quick. This has been a 9 year. So if y'all year has been tough like mine, and you have to do a full Rico sweep and block people, I did that this year. I cut off like 11 people. Like boom, boom, boom. You out of here. Like because when I see people moving funny, and at this stage in my life, and I done gave you grace, you gotta go because you're not gonna give me that same grace. And when I start seeing you moving funny, I don't have time for it, And I know who my true people are when it comes to social media. I know who's gonna check on me and be like, oh yeah, Drea, she's on her sabbatical. Cool. But like some people are not going to give you that grace. They want you to be on all the time. And I'm not, we're human beings. We also got to shut it down too. It's like our computers. We got to shut it down, get refreshed. We have to also too go within and fix ourselves and tap into what we need to the real life. Like I have a life outside of this computer. But I don't argue with people online, and that I'm on Threads now. I love Threads. It reminds me of Twitter because I can talk my talk. I say anything I want to say within
So, Threads,
measure.
so Threads is your new Twitter.
It is. I love Threads. I be on Threads more than Facebook and Instagram because I'm a writer. I'm a writer. I'm a thinker. I'm a reader. I love it for that aspect. I don't need to be performing. I like TikTok because I like to see the videos. I don't gotta perform. I can write. I can go comment on certain things. Like yesterday on Thursday, y'all. Listen, I'm a museum person, so I said, "Hey, these are the museums I want to go to." I had about like 500 people say, "Yo, go to this museum." Go. That's why I like stuff like that, so I can get recommendations because I love going to museums. I'm a nerd. I like certain things. All that story time and boom, let me tell you what happened. I'm not the type of person to put my business out there unless I want you in my business. Then I will personally call you. But
It's interesting to say that because I had a conversation with Keisha earlier, and and we were talking about how some people will use social media to want to argue and debate with you, and it's like, yo, I'm not debate. I like vanilla ice cream. Why are you trying to debate with me about because you like chocolate? Like you're not going to debate me on my opinion. You're not going to change my preference. I don't like it. Like and but it's crazy because we take we have a social media presence, the avatar, like you said, arguing with our avatar, and it's like, hold up, this ain't real. This ain't reality. And I find it interesting, and I mean, and I'm talking about everything. The polarization of social media is crazy. And this is why, for the most part, I haven't really addressed a lot of topics on the channel because a lot of the topics I personally believe that's going on in the world, they're not real. If you go to work every day, you don't work, socialize with different people every day, for the most part, what you see going on in this different area of the world does not affect you whatsoever, has no bearing on your life whatsoever. And what they'll do is they'll have you jaded thinking that the world view of someone else affects your reality. Your reality does not see what something, I'll just say somebody that's going on in Iowa got going on. It's
Mm-hmm.
nothing but cornfields out there anyway. Star said for some social media has taken the place of actual relationships. Yes,
Yeah,
social media has allowed people to become unsociable people, which
exactly.
we're not created to be unsociable. So last question, Drea. If you could offer one message directly to Black women who are silently struggling, what would you want them to hear and hold on to?
It's okay to say no, and it's okay to have boundaries, and no one asks you to keep that cape on. And that's the problem of why you're drowning in depression and anxiety, overperforming and overfunctioning. And when you find yourself in that position, go and seek some type of assistance. And I know I talk about therapy a lot because therapy, when you're honest and when you're putting in the work, and you know when you put in the work and you know when you're honest, don't come on social media like I'm in therapy. You have to, you know within yourself when you're getting better. And even like I said, you doing some type of before you get to therapy, you doing some type of journaling. But don't feel like you have to take on roles that wasn't required for you to take. You can always say no. Are people going to get upset? Of course they're going to get upset, right? But people, and when it comes to Black women, with us once again having that strong Black woman trope, exactly. You don't owe your family members or your friends the explanation of why you resting, and we don't rest enough. That's another thing too. Get some rest. If you are for 2 weeks for vacation, go get you some rest because that's important to rest. To rest because a lot of times I have seen women, my family, my mama, other people just going, 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 and you like you need to rest your body, or your body's gonna shut you down. Your body's gonna shut you down because your resistance got low. You're always sick. That's an indicator to get rest, and also to make sure too that you are working out. My friends look at me crazy because yes, I am very disciplined when it comes to working out. I don't care what you got going on in your life, but I'm going to work out because I need to move my body. And when you move your body, you're moving all that stagnant energy, all that stressful energy out. And also, too, it's been researched stating when you move your body, you are lowering your chances of getting depression, dementia, and other issues as well. And I know people are dealing with seasonal affective disorder or the sad disorder. Walk, get a walking pad, go to your gym. I'm not saying to be a lifter like me. Like I lift, I do two a day. Like I walk, I lift. Um, that's gonna help you with your mental health and to be stable. There's so many people that's unstable out here, and y'all just be careful. Don't be arguing with these folks. Don't be crashing out because you not get the gift that you want. But take care of yourself, Black women. Like please work out. And I know people get upset when I talk about working out. 20 minutes, 30 minutes, walk, even surround your building, even inside. But you got to take care of your holistic health. Like I'm big on holistic health because, once again, as a trained social worker, you look at the whole person. We don't look at just the mind, we look at the mind, body, and soul. And we're struggling so much when it comes to all those things. And when one thing is affected, whether it's the mind, the body, or the spirit, everything's affected because, once again, we are a holistic being. So that's my word for tonight.
So start said I sleep much better when I work out.
Me
So
too.
so I do have another bonus question before we close out. So I know that what a lot of people on this channel don't know about you is that you're somebody that knows numbers, that's into numbers, that understand the significance of numbers in numerology. Let me, and this is, I know this is probably like, well, wait, what the hell made him go to numbers after having a conversation about mental health? But we're going into 2026.
We're going in 2026, which is a 10. 1 plus 0 is 1. It is new beginnings, right? So 1 is get your mind right, get your body right, get your money right. So it is new beginnings for you. And you get to have a clean slate. Like, think about a blank piece of paper. What kind of life do you want to live for 2026 and beyond? How do you want to feel? How do you want to show up? Right? And not be judged. So you're gonna have to really do some inner work when it comes to the 1 year. Like we just joke about, like, new year, new me. It could be a new you, right? But are you willing to put the work in? Because you can write down and quote unquote manifest all this dope stuff, but manifestation also takes work. And what it says in the Bible, faith without works is dead. You can have faith. Oh yeah, praise the Lord, I can have faith. But if you're not putting that work in, you're not going to manifest anything. And also, if someone is telling you something, they love you, they're telling you a hard truth, they love you, don't just get upset and crash out. Really take the feedback and say, this like the third person that told me the same thing. Yeah, I need to go ahead and work on that. So 1 year, universal year, the blessings are gonna come in. Make sure you treat yourself right. You treat people right. You treat your body right, because you could get the blessings. And also give thanks for the good and the bad, because you need to have, I need to have this difficult year for me to now see how there's light at the end of the tunnel, and that also too the Most High really had provided for me, have given me had to really push me out the bed at days in which I didn't want to, and I'm thankful for those difficult days, because it also made me more resilient. And also too, I didn't have strength, early part of the year. And that was pretty much my spirituality had to kick in, and therapy had to kick in and say, yo, you can do better. And even have to thank you too, because he's like, you got all this knowledge, you need to share. And then some days I don't want to share my knowledge. I'm like, yo, these people ain't gonna listen. And now I have to really rewire myself to say, if one person is listening, I'm set for the rest of my life. That's how I have to go back into like my practitioner days. Like, if I can help one person, my life is set, because I'm not going to save everybody. That's not my job. I'm not God. I don't have a savior complex. So, I even had to say to myself, I got to show up differently and stop being invisible. And I had to do my numbers today, y'all, to remind myself, like, yo, I'm not a background singer. I'm like really a person who commands attention and power. And I used to be afraid of that, because once again, being a black woman, oh, how dare you? You shouldn't be doing this. You shouldn't be doing that. You shouldn't be in the background. So I had to even relearn myself, and how I'm showing up differently moving forward. So
Well, glad you could give us that insight. I know you wasn't expecting me to talk to you about the numbers, but
no,
however, this has been a great uh, three-part conversation in reference to mental health, and just getting just trying to scratch the surface on getting Black Americans to understand it's okay to not be okay. As the brother Hoshimad says, and I'm going to continue to support what he says. Nothing's wrong with Black people. Something happened to Black people. Understanding some of the exterior, outside things that have happened um, to Black Americans. Sometimes we don't realize it's okay not to be okay,
mhm,
and understanding that we need to be able to have open conversations about mental health, dealing with stress, dealing with depression, dealing with some of the traumas and or things that we go through, definitely during this time of the year. And being able and having these open conversations, being like, oh, this is what it is. Like, it's okay. Not trying to laugh or demean or punch down on somebody who may be going through something, because a lot of times we need to learn lessons from each other and not always have to go through the same lessons, right, wrong, and so. With that, uh, Professor Drea, I appreciate you and I thank you for joining us for this conversation. And we know you'll be back because I'll make sure you'll be
All right. Peace,
back.
everyone. Peace.
We'll figure something out. With that, everybody take care, man. And for you, those that celebrate the holiday, enjoy your family.
Yes.
Hold on to them. Life is very precious. Take care.